There was a boy named Liam who lived in a bustling city. He was like most kids his age. He went to school, did his homework, and played with his friends. But deep down, Liam had a dream that was different from anyone else's. He wanted to run in the city's marathon one day. The problem? Liam wasn't the fastest runner, and he certainly didn't have the build or stamina that many marathon runners had. When he told his friends about his dream, they laughed. "You run a marathon? You can't even run a mile without getting tired," they teased. Liam's heart sank, but he couldn't shake the desire inside him. That evening, Liam talked to his father. "Dad, do you think I can run a marathon?" His father, who had always believed in him, smiled and said, "Son, if you want it badly enough and you work for it, you can do whatever you want. But it won't be easy. You'll have to train every day, even when you feel like giving up." With his father's words in mind, Liam made a plan. He would start small. The first day, he could barely run for 5 minutes without needing a break. But he didn't quit. Every day, he pushed himself a little more. 5 minutes became 10, then 20, and soon, he was running miles without stopping. Along the way, people still doubted him, but Liam was too focused on his goal to care. Months passed, and the day of the marathon finally arrived. Liam stood at the starting line, feeling nervous but determined. As the race began, he reminded himself of all the hard work he'd put in. The first few miles were easy, but as the race went on, his legs began to ache, and his breath became heavy. At one point, he wanted to stop. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to quit. But then, Liam remembered his father's words, "You can do whatever you want if you work for it." He had come too far to give up now. With every ounce of strength he had left, Liam pushed forward, step by step. Hours later, exhausted and drenched in sweat, Liam crossed the finish line. The crowd cheered, but all Liam could hear was his heartbeat and the voice in his head telling him, "You did it." Liam may not have been the fastest runner, but he had achieved something far greater. He had proven to himself that with determination, hard work, and belief, he could do whatever he set his mind to. And that was the greatest victory of all. Let's learn some words from the story. Deep down. Meaning, refers to one's true feelings or beliefs that might not be obvious on the surface. Example, deep down, she knew she wanted to become an artist, even if she was too shy to admit it. Heart sank. Meaning, a feeling of sudden sadness or disappointment. Example, when he saw the poor grades on his report card, his heart sank. Ache. Meaning, a continuous, dull pain in a part of the body or a feeling of discomfort. Example, after running for hours, his muscles ached all over. Ounce. Meaning, a small amount or a tiny measure of something, often used to emphasize the effort or quantity. Example, she gave every ounce of her energy to finish the project on time. Drenched. Meaning, completely soaked or covered with a lot of liquid. Example, after getting caught in the rain, he was drenched from head to toe. Once in a peaceful village, there lived a skilled potter named Mira. Her pottery was admired by everyone for its beauty and precision, but lately, she found herself increasingly anxious about her work. No matter how many compliments she received, Mira was always worried about the outcome of her next piece. Every time she sat at the wheel, her thoughts were consumed by the desire to create the perfect pot. She would envision the shape, the texture, and the glaze, fixating on the final result. But the more she focused on perfection, the more mistakes she made. Her hands would tremble, the clay would wobble, and she would end up frustrated, blaming herself for not achieving what she had imagined. One evening, as Mira was sitting by the river, feeling disheartened, an elderly woman named Anara approached her. Anara was known throughout the village as a master weaver, her hands always calm and steady. Sensing Mira's troubled heart, Anara sat down next to her and asked, "What troubles you, Mira?" Mira sighed. "I want my pottery to be perfect, but the more I focus on how it should turn out, the more I fail. I'm starting to doubt whether I'm any good at this." Anara smiled gently. "Let me tell you something I learned long ago. When I was younger, I used to weave with the goal of creating flawless tapestries. Every thread had to be perfectly aligned, every pattern precise. But no matter how hard I tried, I would always find some imperfection." "What did you do?" Mira asked. "I stopped focusing on the end result," Anara replied. "Instead, I began to pay attention to the act of weaving itself. I learned to enjoy the feel of the threads, the rhythm of my hands, the way each moment brought something new. And in doing so, the tapestries wove themselves. The beauty came not from my desire for perfection but from my love for the craft." Mira listened intently, the weight of her worries beginning to lift. "So you're saying I should focus on the process, not the outcome?" "Exactly," Anara said. "When you focus too much on the result, you rob yourself of the joy of creating. Let go of the need for perfection and trust that each pot you make is a reflection of the moment you're in. If you love the process, the results will follow naturally." The next day, Mira returned to her workshop with a new perspective. She no longer fretted about how her pots would turn out. Instead, she let her hands move freely, enjoying the smoothness of the clay and the way it transformed under her touch. To her surprise, her work improved. The pots became more elegant, and the joy she had once lost returned. Mira realized that true mastery wasn't about focusing on the final product. It was about being present, embracing the journey, and allowing the process to unfold without the burden of expectations. And in doing so, her work became more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. Let's learn some words from the story. Envision, to imagine or picture something in your mind. Example, she could envision her future career as a successful artist. Glaze, a shiny coating or finish applied to pottery or ceramics. It can also mean a thin, glossy layer on food. Example, she applied a glaze to her pottery to make it look shiny and smooth. Tremble, to shake slightly, usually because of nervousness, cold, or fear. Example, his hands began to tremble as he approached the stage to give his speech. Wobble, to move unsteadily from side to side or to shake. Example, the table started to wobble because one of its legs was uneven. Weave, to make fabric by interlacing threads, or to create something by combining different elements. Example, she learned how to weave beautiful patterns into the fabric on her loom. Rob, to take something away from someone, often by force or deceit. Example, the thief tried to rob the bank but was caught by the police. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, keep shining bright with Storylight.